We have here verse 6 of the 6th chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus, back in Galilee, has gone with his disciples up onto what's called by John the mountain, same term that's used by the other gospel writers as well, so it must have been a known location, and as they are there, presumably to get a little time away, nevertheless the crowd has figured out where they are, and we hear in the previous verse that they are coming toward Jesus and toward the disciples, and Jesus puts the question to Philip, where are we going to get some food to feed all of these people out here? And of course, Philip is at loose ends, doesn't have any good response to that, probably doesn't anticipate what's actually going to happen. Then we hear tuto. This is the demonstrative pronoun. It's the neuter, accusative, singular. So this, de, the postpositive, but this, elegen. This is from lego, I say. This is the third person singular, imperfect active indicative. So he was saying this. Pyrodzone. The word peiradzo means to test. It can also mean to tempt. And it's only the context that distinguishes the two. Tempting, of course, in the sense of alluring someone to do something that is evil. Testing, rather, simply to put someone to the test, to find out what stuff they're made of. And that, of course, is the sense in which the word is being used here. Jesus isn't tempting Philip to commit some sin, but he is putting him to the test to the point of his faith or his conviction of the adequacy of Jesus. This is a nominative singular masculine participle, happens to be a present participle, and so he was saying this to test him. And the idea is the present participle denominates action taking place at the time of the leading verb, which in this case is elegen. So he was saying this in order to test auton, the direct object of the verb test. This is the accusative, singular, masculine. So Jesus was saying this to Philip to test him. Same word here, autos, but now in the nominative, singular, masculine. And in this construction typically is used in the intensive sense. So he himself, referring to Jesus. Gar, postpositive for he himself. Ade. This is from edo. It's an idea of knowing, to really literally to see, but it used generally speaking to mean to know. This is the third person singular pluperfect active indicative, the form in which that word typically shows up in the New Testament. For he had known, really, the idea, but it ordinarily is simply translated he knew. But it implies an idea of knew well. He had a pretty good idea, solid understanding, you might say, of te, that is what, typically an interrogative pronoun, used here not so much interrogatively, but with that sense in mind. He knew what. Emelen. This is from mello. It's a verb that means I am about, and it's used ordinarily with an infinitive. So you would say, I am about to run, I am about to sit down, so on, the infinitive of the verb, ordinarily used here. And of course we have an infinitive in this case as well. So he knew what he was about. And then poiein, from poieo, to make or to do. In this case, Jesus knew what he was going to do. He puts the question to Philip, asking as if he himself, that is Jesus, were at loose ends as to how are we going to feed these people. But of course Jesus all the time knew what he was going to do. The question is for Philip's benefit, for Philip's learning moment, rather than any lack of understanding on the part of Christ. That's the way John wants us to take this, and he's framing the statement in that way to make sure that we understand that though we may sometimes be at loose ends in our circumstances of life, Jesus is never running out of options or somehow put to the situation that he doesn't have perfectly in mind exactly how this situation is going to play out.